Ever since she was little, my younger sister always said she couldn't bear the hardship of studying. All she wanted was to lie around and be a pampered, delicate housewife. So our parents arranged a political marriage for her. As for me, I walked the path alone, quietly and diligently, earning my master's and eventually a PhD. In the end, after getting married, her husband grew wealthier and more successful, but she kept catching him cheating. She went mad multiple times from the betrayals and became a laughingstock among the wealthy wives. Meanwhile, my research projects progressed smoothly. I earned the respect of my field and even caught the attention of the heir to a business empire who passionately pursued me. The stark contrast was too much for her to handle. "A bookworm like you, who only knows how to study, what gives you the right to live better than me?" And so, when I returned home one day, she set fire to the house, burning us both alive. When I opened my eyes, we had returned to our childhood. She smirked triumphantly. "This time you're the one who'll lose," she said. "That heir is mine now." I couldn't help but laugh. The man I despised most in my past life. She treated him like a treasure. A breeze brushed past my bare feet, tickling them and pulling me from my thoughts. I slowly opened my eyes to see a familiar room. Pale gray curtains fluttered in the wind. The window was cracked open. Beneath it, a desk stacked with textbooks. This was my room. I turned my head and saw my sister lying quietly in bed, rubbing her eyes. She was back to her childhood form. I quickly looked down and saw my own small body again, short arms, tiny feet, and the red birthmark on the sole of my foot. We had been reborn. My sister sat up, turned to look at me, surprise flickering in her eyes for a moment, before her lips curled into a smug smile. "Sis," she said, "this time it's my turn to shine." "That heir," she added, "he's mine." I smiled gently. "If that's what you want, take him." In our previous life, she absolutely hated studying. She always said she couldn't endure the struggle and just wanted a peaceful life as a dutiful wife. When she came of age, our parents jumped at the chance to marry her off in an alliance. Unexpectedly, though she was the legal wife, her husband flaunted his affairs shamelessly, keeping mistresses out in the open. She caught him cheating again and again, lost her mind trying to catch him in the act, and became a notorious joke among the elite. Meanwhile, I quietly pursued my education, earned my degrees, completed successful research projects, and gained wide respect. Eventually, I was even pursued by a powerful young heir. My younger sister couldn't bear the contrast between us. The brighter I shined, the more her dream of becoming a perfect housewife shattered. She became nothing more than someone constantly trampled on. She hated me for it. "A nerd like you, who only knows how to study, why do you get to live better than me?" she once screamed. Then, one day, while I was home alone, she set the house on fire and killed us both. Now that we've been reborn, she wants to steal everything that was once mine. Fine by me. She can have it. I never truly desired any of it in the first place. She stared at my indifferent expression in silence. For a moment, suspicion flickered in her eyes, but it was quickly replaced by smug satisfaction. "So you're looking down on me now, huh?" she scoffed. "Mom loves me best. If I tell her I want to study and not get married, she'll definitely side with me. Then the arranged marriage will fall on you instead, and that heir will be mine." I listened to her plan and even clapped mockingly. "Wow, impressive. Go for it," I said with a smile. She frowned slightly at my reaction, ready to snap at me, when a knock on the door interrupted her. It was Mom. She walked in with a gentle smile, carrying a plate of fruit. "Girls, have some fruit first. Later, I'll take you to visit a friend's son. A friend's son? I paused for a moment and then remembered. That boy must be Ethan Jang, my sister's husband in our previous life. We hadn't interacted much back then, and it had been so long, I'd forgotten we actually met as children. At the mention of the friend's son, my sister's expression changed instantly. It darkened in a way no child's face should. Mom noticed and asked in surprise, "Tracy, what's wrong?" Tracy quickly shifted her face into a pout, putting on a cutesy tone. "Mom, I don't want to meet that boy. I want to stay home and study." Mom gently stroked her hair. "Tracy, weren't you the one who always hated studying the most? That boy is really handsome. I'm sure you'll like him. You can study when we get home." Tracy opened her mouth to protest again, but Mom cut her off. Not angry, but firm enough to make it clear she wouldn't budge. In the end, Tracy had no choice but to come with us. When we arrived, Ethan Jang was playing with a remote-controlled car in the living room. Upon seeing us, he lit up with a bright smile. Tracy's face instantly turned cold, like she was seeing her mortal enemy. In our past life, she had a major crush on him, the rich heir, and would sweet-talk him at every chance. Naturally, Ethan had taken a liking to her too. What kid doesn't enjoy being flattered? But this time, Ethan didn't even glance at her. He walked straight over to me. "Hey, Anna, want to play with the RC car? Let's play together." I looked at him in surprise. His gaze had a strange familiarity to it, far too mature for his age. He was reborn too. I smiled and nodded. "Sure." Tracy looked on in disbelief, her lips curling in distaste. "What's so fun about that toy car? Gross!" Ethan frowned and turned to his father. "Dad, I don't like that girl. She said I'm gross. Can we not invite her over next time?" Mr. Jang frowned slightly and cast an annoyed glance toward my mom. My mother's expression darkened. Her eyes filled with disappointment as she looked at Tracy. Tracy turned pale, confused as to why Ethan Jang was acting so differently. After all, in our past life, they had gotten along quite well. But she didn't realize. It had only been because she had chased after him relentlessly. That was why he treated her kindly. In this life, the moment she showed her unpleasant side, of course he'd be turned off. Ethan was never someone easy to deal with. The fact that he wasn't lashing out already showed great restraint. Ethan tugged at his father's sleeve, asking repeatedly, "Please, Dad? Can we? Can we?" All eyes in the room turned toward the father and son, no one noticing the growing darkness in Tracy's eyes. Seeing that he couldn't convince his son otherwise, Mr. Jang gently patted Ethan's head and sighed. "All right then. Next time, we'll only invite Anna over." "How about that?" Ethan beamed. "Okay, just Anna next time." Tracy's expression twisted with rage. I didn't understand why Ethan suddenly shifted his attention to me, but looking at Tracy's face, I couldn't help but feel a bit smug. And so, I decided to stir the pot even more. I tugged on my mom's hand and said softly, "Tracy told me she wants to marry a real heir someday, someone from a powerful family. That's why she doesn't want to play with Koa anymore. Please don't be mad at her." My mom's expression soured further. She cast Tracy a glance filled with scorn. Tracy bit her lip furiously and snapped, "You're all terrible. Ethan's a playboy, and you're still trying to marry me off to him. You're the bad ones. I want to go home." Everyone in the room frowned, visibly disturbed by Tracy's outburst. My mom looked embarrassed and tried to soothe her. Then she sat down to chat with Mr. Jang, hoping the kids would play together. But Tracy refused, sitting silently by Mom's side, just listening to the adults talk. Meanwhile, Ethan and I played with the remote-controlled car nearby. I leaned closer and whispered, "You've been reborn too, haven't you?" He smiled, replying just as quietly, "So you figured it out?" "I'm not surprised." "It's you, Anna." I smiled as well. Then what's with how you treated Tracy? He scoffed. I never liked her, not even in the last life. My dad forced me to marry her. That's why I ended up cheating on her constantly. So you're not planning to marry her this time? I asked. Ethan looked at me for 5 full seconds before answering. If I could marry someone else, I'd much rather. I understood then. Ethan had set his sights on me. He wanted to marry me this time. Well, I had been a well-known figure in our past life, respected for my scientific achievements and groundbreaking research. I was used to admiration. I smirked slightly and said, "If you want to marry me, fine, but you'll have to support my education, no matter what. You'll only get one chance to cheat. If you do it and still don't change, we're getting divorced." Ethan laughed. That's so you, Anna. But if it's you, I'd never dare to cheat. I ignored him. We kept playing until my mom called for me to leave. After saying goodbye to the domineering Ethan Jang, my mother, Tracy, and I returned home. The moment we stepped inside, Mom began scolding Tracy harshly. Tracy got so angry she started rambling incoherently. "I've said it already," she shouted. "The one I want to marry is the heir of a financial empire, not Ethan Jang. He's a playboy. I'd rather die than marry him." Seeing her act that way, my mom lost her temper, gave her a beating, and locked her in the darkroom. More than 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. Tracy and I had both grown up. I had become an accomplished, beautiful young woman, healthy, diligent, and well-rounded. Tracy, on the other hand, always claimed to be studying hard, but her grades barely made the cut. One day, Mom came home and gathered us together. She told us the Jang family wanted to arrange a marriage and asked which of us would be willing to go. Though she posed the question to both of us, her eyes were fixed on Tracy. Mom didn't have the heart to marry me off, since I had excellent academic potential, while Tracy didn't. But Tracy flat out refused. "I want to study. I don't want an arranged marriage." I stepped forward. "I'll go." Mom let out a breath of relief, though there was still some reluctance in her voice. "But Anna, you love studying so much. Why would you agree to this?" I smiled and replied, "Even after marriage, I can still continue learning. I've always had a good impression of Ethan Jang. I'm willing to marry him." Mom was pleased, and so the engagement between Ethan Jang and me was settled. Back in my room, Tracy smiled smugly. "Congratulations on your marriage, sis. You'll soon be the joke of the rich wives' circle. Meanwhile, I'll become the woman beside the real heir of a financial empire. He's mine, sooner or later." I almost burst out laughing. "Well then, I sincerely hope you get your wish." In this life, I chose to marry Ethan Jang primarily to avoid getting involved with that so-called heir. Damien Liu, in our past life, was a madman. He pursued me obsessively, attracted to my accomplishments and appearance. He used to say he had never met anyone so perfect, smart, beautiful, accomplished in research. Every day, he showered me with praise, and gradually, I let myself get caught up in his sweet words. But once I got involved with him, it all turned into a nightmare. He would humiliate me constantly, crush my dignity. The moment I pushed back, he hit me. "You're just a woman," he sneered. "Why bother with science or research? You've got money, that's all that matters. Acting like you're so pure and noble. Aren't you just like everyone else? You're with me for the money. I give you money, so quit those stupid experiments. Watching you suffer like a dog is actually kind of entertaining." Day after day, I argued with him. My body was covered in bruises. He had narcissistic personality disorder. On one hand, he believed only someone like me was worthy of him. On the other, he wanted to destroy me. When I finally decided I'd had enough and tried to break up with him, he calmly threatened me. "If you leave me, I'll ruin your career. You'll lose everything." With no way out, I was forced to live in Damien Liu's shadow. He was the scar that ruined my entire past life. But this time, I refused to fall into his hands again. Not long after, my wedding with Ethan Jung was held, and I became his wife. What I hadn't expected was how well he treated me. He didn't cheat, didn't stray. Tracy's smug expression twisted in disbelief when she heard I'd married Ethan. "Just wait," she sneered. "You'll be a laughingstock soon enough. People don't change, and especially not for a bookworm like you." What she didn't know was that, in my past life, after discovering Damian Liu had narcissistic personality disorder, I had started studying psychology. During this lifetime, I spent a lot of time talking with Ethan. I learned that his mother had passed away when he was young, and he'd grown up longing for maternal love. In our previous life, he chased that feeling and found it in Tracy. But Tracy had only ever cared about wealth and status. She never once showed him genuine affection. That's why Ethan, subconsciously drawn to women who reminded him of his mother, kept cheating. He had been attracted to me back then too, but by the time he realized it, he was already married and surrounded by scandal. He didn't want to drag me down, so he never approached me. I suspected I reminded him of his mother somehow. So I asked him, "Do I resemble your mom?" He thought for a while, then said, "She was gentle. But you're strong. You're not like her. And I would never see you as a replacement. I love you, Anna. Just you." He smiled, his voice full of emotion. "Being with you in this life, I feel truly lucky." I reached out and embraced him. "Then in this life, I'll stay by your side. Always. As long as you don't cheat." He gently rested his head on my shoulder, his voice trembling softly. "With you by my side, I won't. Not in this lifetime." Under my care, his emotional wounds began to heal, and our life was truly happy. Tracy, watching us from the shadows, gritted her teeth. "A dog will always return to its filth. Just wait and see." I simply smiled faintly, unbothered. In order to get closer to Damian Liu, Tracy took a part-time job at a restaurant where he often dined. But her poor grades and unimpressive background didn't catch his attention. With no other choice, she begged our mom to help her buy academic honors, specifically to pay off the top student at school and steal the valedictorian title. Thanks to that fabricated glory, Damian finally started noticing her and asked her out. To impress him, Tracy began splurging on luxury brands. Our mom, though struggling financially, gave everything she had to support her daughter's pursuit of an heir to a financial empire. Little by little, our family savings were drained, and eventually, my mom began borrowing money from me. Mom said, "Tracy's actually quite clever. Now that she's dating a wealthy heir, you two should support her. Who knows, maybe one day the Zhang family will have to rely on her side." But Ethan Zhang had no intention of lending her money. In our previous life, he had grown completely exhausted by Tracy, an ambitious, prideful woman who blamed him for everything that went wrong in their marriage. He remembered clearly how back then, he once confided in her about the stress of work and told her he was feeling drained. Instead of listening, she demanded a designer handbag. Things like that happened often. Ethan felt like he couldn't communicate with her anymore and eventually began seeking comfort elsewhere. But Tracy blamed him for everything, fueling his frustration and pushing him to cheat openly and without restraint, turning her into a laughingstock among the elite in the capital. That's why, in this life, Ethan wanted nothing to do with her. Still, I gently took his hand and said, "If she wants to borrow money, just let her. That so-called heir she's chasing after isn't a good person." In our past life, I had been involved with Damian Liu. The truth was, he was mentally unstable. Because of my involvement with him, Tracy went mad with jealousy and set the fire that killed both of us. Damian had always hoped Ethan would cheat on me. He wanted us to fall apart. So maybe it's time we give him a little of what he deserves. Ethan, who knew full well that Tracy had killed me in the previous life, clenched his fists. "Fine. We'll lend her the money. Let's hope she gets exactly what she wants from that guy. He handed Tracy the money. She counted it with a cold smile, sneering, "Don't get too cocky. When Damien and I are officially a couple, I'll pay you back. I wouldn't want to be associated with people as lacking in character as you." Ethan let out a low, mocking laugh. I simply smiled sweetly and said, "Tracy, I truly hope you and Damien end up together. Who knows, maybe you'll even be influenced by him." Tracy snorted coldly, tossing us a haughty glare. "Just wait." Ethan and I exchanged a knowing glance. We both understood what lay ahead. After our wedding, I continued my studies and kept making progress. I participated in research projects at the university and even won awards. Ethan also kept leveling up in his field. His father, impressed, gave us a large sum of money for travel. We decided to visit the Snow Lovers Park in Hokkaido, Japan, and there, we unexpectedly ran into Damien Liu, with Tracy on his arm. She clung to him affectionately, and they looked quite sweet together. When they saw us, they walked over. Damien looked at me curiously and asked, "Who's that?" Tracy gave a mocking laugh. "Oh, that's my sister and her husband. They don't really do anything, just travel around all day." Damien reached out his hand toward me. "I'm Damien, Tracy's boyfriend." I didn't shake it. Instead, I linked arms with Ethan and smiled. "Nice to meet you. This is my husband. What a coincidence, running into you here." A flicker of disappointment crossed Damien's face when he saw me with Ethan. He retracted his hand and muttered, "Yeah, what a coincidence." Tracy noticed the change in Damien's eyes and quickly tried to cover. "Sis, aren't you supposed to be in the lab? Running around like this is going to slow down your research progress." She didn't know that in our past life, the thing Damien loved most about me was that I was a dedicated researcher. Damien Liu's eyes lit up. "Your sister does lab work?" I quickly cut in. "I just help out the upperclassmen now and then. Nothing serious. Some small tasks to earn credits. If I were really that busy, how would I even have time to travel?" The moment he heard that, his eyes flashed with subtle disdain. Tracy, however, looked thrilled. Her eyes sparkled, probably thinking I truly had no intention of competing with her for Damien. Feeling victorious, she tugged Damien aside and walked away with him. Watching their backs disappear, I couldn't help but smile. Finally, I had shaken off Damien Liu, the dark shadow of my past. And Tracy, blind to the truth, treated him like treasure, even willing to kill me for him in our previous life. Ethan Jang walked over and gently took my hand. Those two really are a match made in hell. I smiled and tugged him toward a nearby dessert shop. Later that evening, when we returned home, my mother called Ethan and me into the living room. She beamed as she announced, "Tracy is now officially dating Damien Liu, the heir to a financial empire. He's coming over for dinner tonight. Let's all celebrate." We had actually planned to go out for seafood buffet that evening and had no intention of returning. But Mom insisted so much that we had no choice. By the time we got back, Damien was already seated in the living room, looking uncomfortable, like the chair was too small for someone of his imagined importance. Mom hovered around like a servant, pouring tea, refilling drinks. Tracy stood beside him, glowing with pride, looking every bit like a princess misplaced among commoners. She glanced smugly at me and then said in a high voice, "Sis, this is Damien, my boyfriend. You should get to know him. Who knows, my boyfriend might be able to help your husband in the future. He's not just any guy, you know." Ethan, playing along, greeted him politely. "Nice to meet you." But Damien only gave him a dismissive glance and didn't bother to respond. Ethan's brows knit slightly. The Zhang family may not be the richest in the capital, but they ranked 5th. Their business was stable, and they were leaders in emerging tech, an industry full of potential. The Liu family, by contrast, dealt in real estate, an aging sector prone to losses. I couldn't help the slight smirk on my lips as I watched the ridiculous performance of Tracy and Damien. A while later, the housekeeper Mom had hired finished setting the table, and the four of us sat down to eat. Ethan leaned close and whispered, "Your mom's really pulling out all the stops to cling to this so-called heir." I gave him a soft smile and whispered back, "Just wait and see." Damien picked up a piece of spicy stir-fried shrimp and popped it in his mouth. Almost instantly, his face changed color, and he started coughing violently. Tracy quickly offered him some water. He drank it and forced a smile. "I'm fine." But then he grabbed a piece of spicy stir-fried cucumber and started coughing again, even harder. His face grew visibly worse. I held back a laugh. Damien can't handle spicy food. But everything on the table was Tracy's favorite, and she loved everything spicy. The first time, Damien had forced himself to tolerate it, but clearly his patience was wearing thin. But on the second try, with someone as narcissistic as Damien Liu, who believed the whole world should cater to him, there was no way he'd hold it in. Sure enough, with a loud clatter, he slammed his chopsticks down, his face stormy. "What kind of food is this? Everything's insanely spicy. Is this how you treat your guests? I'm not eating this. I'm leaving." Tracy panicked. My mom flustered as well. "We didn't know you couldn't eat spicy food. I'll have the maid cook something else. Please wait." But Damien's eyes were filled with contempt. He turned his back and stormed toward the door. With a loud bang, he slammed it shut on his way out, making both Mom and Tracy flinch. Mom grabbed Tracy's arm and pushed her forward. "Go! Go after him!" Tracy immediately ran after him. That night, I received a call from her. "Anna, you knew Damien can't eat spicy food. Why didn't you say anything?" I'd been expecting the call and calmly replied, "How would I know? Our family's always eaten spicy dishes. I've been away for a while. How would I know his tastes have changed? You're his girlfriend. Shouldn't you know what he can and can't eat?" Tracy gritted her teeth. "You did that on purpose, but it's fine. Damien's already forgiven me. Once we're officially together, we'll be happy. Just wait and see. Your husband will cheat, and you'll become the next laughingstock of high society." I laughed. "Then you'll be disappointed. Ethan and I are doing great. That scenario's not going to happen. You should worry about yourself first." Tracy grew even more furious. "Just you wait," she snapped, then hung up. I sighed. Those two, one likes to be hurt, and the other enjoys hurting. Damien had originally intended to break up with Tracy, but she clung to him like a leech, refusing to let go. In the end, they stayed together, though it was clear Damien's attention had drifted far away from her. He began flirting with other brilliant women, one after another. That's when Tracy's resentment toward me really began to fester. Based on what I knew of her, she was most likely planning to humiliate me again, just like in our previous life, by trying to sabotage Ethan Zhang. So I warned Ethan to be mentally prepared. He was sharp and simply gave me an okay gesture, which put me at ease. Sure enough, a few nights later, Ethan still hadn't come home. I called several times, but couldn't reach him. Worry began to gnaw at me. Then Tracy called. "Hey sis, your dear husband isn't home yet, is he? You might want to check Triton Hotel, room 103. I doubt they're done yet." "I told you, men like him don't change for someone like you." Ha ha ha, looks like I was right. But I was sure Ethan wouldn't fall for one of Tracy's traps. Still, I quickly threw on my coat and rushed to the Triton Hotel. Standing in front of room 103, my heart pounded with unease. But when I heard voices coming from inside, I felt somewhat reassured. I opened the door. Inside, Ethan Zhang was sitting and having a calm conversation with a young woman. That girl was clearly someone Tracy had sent. The moment Ethan Zhang saw me, he rushed over and wrapped me in his arms. "Phew, that was close. I almost lost my virtue. Good thing you showed up." I gently patted his head. "Good boy." He stood upright and subtly signaled with his eyes, letting me know he'd uncovered another one of Tracy's schemes. I looked over at the girl. She gave me a soft smile. As I took a closer look, she seemed familiar. Then it clicked. She was Mia Chu, one of Tracy's old classmates. In our past life, Tracy had taken full advantage of her status as a rich girl to bully others at school, Mia included. Mia came from a poor family, kept to herself, and was quiet in class, making her an easy target. Tracy often forced her to do homework, shine shoes, and run errands like a servant. If Mia resisted, she got slapped, humiliated, or laughed at. Her body was often covered in bruises. Still, she stubbornly came to class every day and studied hard. Later on, for reasons no one knew, Mia suddenly dropped out of school. She didn't have any close friends, so nobody knew why. Now I understood. Her father had fallen seriously ill, and Mia had quit school to earn money for his treatment. But in this life, because I had interfered, Tracy couldn't force Mia to quit. So she changed tactics. She offered Mia a deal: sleep with Ethan Jong, and she'd pay for her father's treatment. To seal the deal, Tracy had even tried to drug Ethan, slipping an aphrodisiac into his drink. But what she didn't know was, this time, Ethan had come prepared. He carried an antidote with him at all times, wary after what happened in our past life. After fending off Tracy's plan, Ethan spoke to Mia and uncovered the truth. I made Mia an offer. If you help us expose Tracy, I'll give you enough money to cover your dad's medical bills. What do you say? Mia hesitated, then nodded. As long as I can save my father, I'll do anything. Later that evening, we'd barely gotten home when Tracy called me. Hey Anna, how's your husband? Don't be too mad. Guys like him never really change. No matter who they're with, they'll always cheat. You should just learn to be more forgiving. Her smug tone made me want to laugh. She's gloating now, but tomorrow she won't even be able to smile. I couldn't be bothered to argue. I just replied lightly, Ethan and I just got back from a BBQ date. We had a great time. Gotta go, bye. Tracy clearly wanted to say something else, but I hung up before she could. Babe, Ethan said as he hugged my waist with a mischievous grin. Can I do something a little naughty? I laughed and turned off the lights. The next day, social media exploded. A video of Tracy bullying another student had gone viral. In it, she stood in a school bathroom ordering others to smear feces-covered tissues on Mia Chu. She even spat on her. When Mia tried to resist, Tracy yanked her hair and slammed her to the ground, while the others laughed cruelly. Later, Mia posted a powerful monologue online, detailing the years of bullying she endured. The clip went viral instantly. Tracy became internet infamous overnight. Public outrage was fierce and relentless. She called me furious. Anna, what did you do to Mia? Did you brainwash her or something? Why would she help you? I laughed. Nothing happened between Ethan and me. As for you, just relax and enjoy your karma. With that, I hung up. Tracy wanted to confront Mia Chu, but Mia had already withdrawn from school and moved away. Back at school, everyone who saw Tracy mocked her. Look, it's the viral sensation herself. Students who had been bullied by her didn't hold back. Serves you right. God is watching. Hope your life stays miserable. One student even splashed fountain pen ink all over her. Before long, her once pristine white uniform had turned pitch black. Unable to bear the humiliation, Tracy ran home and tattled to her mom. Her mother called me for answers. I calmly told her everything, start to finish. After hearing the full story, she didn't defend her daughter at all. Let her deal with the consequences herself, she said. Out of options, Tracy turned to Damian Liu. But the moment he saw how disheveled she looked, he wanted nothing to do with her. She was an embarrassment. Tracy cried and begged him. It's all fake. Anna's the one who manipulated everything behind the scenes. Mia bullied me first. I just wanted someone to scare her a little. I've been studying non-stop. I don't have time to cause trouble. But Damian didn't believe a word of it. Tracy became completely isolated. She didn't return to school for a long time. Still, she wasn't ready to give up. She remembered that in our past life, I had worked as a lab assistant, and that Damien had liked that about me. So she submitted an application to work in the lab too. Since her grades weren't terrible, the school let her try it out. And just like that, Tracy became a lab assistant. One day, we happened to bump into each other outside a restaurant. She looked smug and said, "Being a lab assistant isn't hard at all. I'm part of the lab now too." Sure, Damien and I are broken up, but I believe if I just stay true to myself, he'll come back to me. I smiled politely. "Then, I wish you all the best." Tracy loved hearing sweet words from me. She smiled back and walked into the restaurant. Watching her walk away, I couldn't help but laugh. Being a lab assistant is no easy job. She was majoring in chemistry. If she made one wrong move, it could lead to a serious accident. If that happened, she might even get expelled. When Damien heard that Tracy had become a lab assistant, his attitude toward her changed again. He'd always had a thing for prideful, untouchable women. He loved conquering them, then slowly breaking them down until they became obedient, like loyal dogs at his feet. But Tracy had no clue. She happily dated him, did everything he asked, and bent over backward just to gain his approval. And of course, Damien loved the attention. Who doesn't enjoy being worshipped? Tracy was living in a delusional state of bliss, enduring all of Damien's control and manipulation, all for a glimpse of affection. A month later, Damien Liu's grandmother fell seriously ill. The one person she worried about most was Damien himself. Her biggest wish before passing was to see him get married. When Tracy heard the news, she was overjoyed. She rushed to the Liu residence with fruit baskets, expensive gifts, health supplements, playing the role of a dutiful future granddaughter-in-law. Grandma Liu had never liked Tracy. She always saw through her, an opportunist clinging to the Liu family for money. But Tracy was skilled at playing the sweet, obedient girl, so Grandma Liu kept her thoughts to herself. Of course, there was another reason she stayed quiet. Everyone in the Liu family knew Damien had narcissistic personality disorder. It was a family secret, never spoken of publicly. Grandma Liu knew that with Damien's condition, it was nearly impossible for him to find genuine love. But even if no one truly loved him, she figured, even someone loyal for the sake of money was better than nothing. And knowing how cunning Damien was, she wasn't worried about anyone easily draining the family fortune. So, Grandma Liu decided to enjoy the flattery Tracy offered, and Tracy was more than happy to serve. At last, after a month of consistent effort, Grandma Liu gave her blessing for Tracy and Damien to marry. Tracy was thrilled. She picked an auspicious date and arranged an elaborate wedding. But on the wedding day, the skies were dark, pouring rain with thunder rolling in the distance. After the marriage, Damien didn't change a bit. He continued flirting with other women as if Tracy didn't exist. Desperate to win his admiration, Tracy decided to carry out a flawless lab experiment to impress him. She called me, asking for help in conducting the experiment. I guessed immediately what she wanted, to make me do the heavy lifting while she took all the credit in the final report. She sweet-talked me over the phone, saying that if I helped, Damien might even open some business opportunities for Ethan Zhang in return. Imagining her arrogant expression on the other end of the line, I paused, then agreed. On the day of the experiment, I entered the lab and seriously walked her through each step. But since all of her previous grades had been bought, she didn't actually understand any of the procedures. Still, she loved pretending she did, putting on airs like she was a pro. A senior student walked in to grab some equipment. When she saw me, she curiously asked Tracy, "Who's she?" Tracy smirked. "Oh, that's just my assistant." My face twitched slightly, but I stayed composed. "Hello, nice to meet you," I said politely. The senior looked surprised, but nodded in return and left. I glanced at the flammable materials on the table. I thought back to the fire in my past life, the pain, and my lips curled slightly. I placed a large beaker of potassium chlorate next to a glass of water. Then I turned to Tracy. Tracy, I need to step out to the restroom real quick. I'll be back in a bit to continue. These items here, can I leave them in your care? With your intelligence, I'm sure it'll be no problem. Flattered by my praise, Tracy lit up. Of course. Go ahead, I've got this. I stared at the beaker and the water for a few seconds longer, then walked out of the lab. Inside the restroom, I quietly started counting the seconds. Given Tracy's show-off nature and impatience, I knew she wouldn't be able to resist meddling, trying to prove she could do the experiment without me. 3, 2, 1, boom! An explosion rocked the lab. People screamed and rushed over to see what had happened. Tracy crawled out of the lab in a horrifying state, begging for help. She was rushed to the hospital immediately. Her face, chest, arms, and hands were severely burned. Her face was completely disfigured. When Damien Liu saw her, he was even more disgusted than before. He practically threw the divorce papers in her face. Tracy burned with rage, but there was nowhere to direct it. All she could do was lie in her hospital bed, stabbing angrily at a doll with a fork. Some classmates came to visit her and asked what had happened. She admitted, "I accidentally mixed potassium chlorate in water." Everyone stared in disbelief. "That's such a basic mistake. Aren't you supposed to be top of the class?" Tracy avoided their eyes and muttered, I forgot." But her lame excuse only raised more suspicion. And eventually, her secret was exposed. She had been buying her grades all along. Damien, who already despised her, now felt deeply betrayed and humiliated. Enraged, he threw the divorce papers at her and walked away. Now disfigured, disgraced, and with nothing left to cling to, Tracy refused to sign and clung to him desperately. Soon after, Damien's narcissistic personality disorder was exposed to the public. But that was just the beginning. The media dug deeper and uncovered that Damien had murdered several gifted women in the past. Authorities discovered the bodies of 32 missing girls buried in the backyard of his mansion. The entire nation was shaken. No one could believe that the heir of a financial empire was actually a serial killer. The Liu family's empire collapsed overnight. Damien and Tracy's failed marriage became a scandal the public devoured. Damien's grandmother, already in frail health, died of shock after hearing the news. In the end, Damien Liu was arrested and sentenced to death. As for Tracy, now disfigured and mentally broken, she spiraled into despair. One night, she called me. I knew what she wanted. She was trying to pull the same stunt from our previous life, take me down with her, but there was no way I would let that happen again. Ethan Zhang and I had already placed a spring mattress beneath the window in advance, and he was waiting outside. When Tracy lit the fire, I ran to the window and jumped onto the mattress safely. Ethan, seeing I was unharmed, quickly packed up the mattress and hid it. Tracy rushed to the window and saw me below. Her voice tore through the night, filled with madness. "Anna, you should be dead. Why isn't it you?" I looked up at her and said calmly, "Enjoy your final moments, Tracy. You reap what you sow." Ethan stood beside me, a soft smile on his lips, eyes gleaming with satisfaction.